The four-leaf clover is a versatile and popular symbol of luck that looks good as an ornament in just about any scene. In this beginner's tutorial, you will learn how to make one in Blender. We start with a new file from the File menu. The default cube is already selected and the cursor is in the center of the grid. But first, a quick look in User Preferences. If you prefer to select with the left mouse button, you can set that here. In addition, we need to see the grid quite well, so it helps if we temporarily brighten the grid color in the Themes panel. Okay, with that out of the way, we can get started. In Outliner, we name the cube Clover. And rename the lamp to Sun, which we'll edit later. In 3D view, select the cube again, press 7 on the numpad to switch to the top view, and numpad 5 for orthographic projection. We zoom in for a tighter view at 1 Blender unit on the grid, and we can move the bottom edge of the view down as we don't need the timeline. For a larger view, press Ctrl up arrow. Switch to Edit mode and press Alt-M for the Merge menu, select the Add Cursor option. We now have a starting vertex at 0 position. We need it to be slightly off-center on the x-axis, so press G followed by X and minus 0.05. Press E to extrude a new vertex and move it to the -1 unit on the x-axis and up 4 notches on the y-axis. This doesn't need to be exact, so visual positioning is fine. Press E to extrude another vertex, move it up to upper left corner of the 1 unit square, and then 4 notches diagonally down, like so. Press E again to extrude and move the new vertex to the top right corner of the 1 unit square and left on the x-axis by 4 notches. Press E once more to extrude and place the new vertex anywhere. We need to position this one precisely, and we'll do so with numerical input. Press Shift S for the Snap menu and choose Selection to Cursor. Now press G followed by Y and 0.05 to move the vertex slightly up on the Y-axis. Press Ctrl down arrow to return to the regular view. Now to the Modifiers panel to add 2 mirror modifiers. In the first, leave the x-axis selected as the mirror axis. Press Copy to duplicate the modifier and uncheck the X option there and check the Y option. Merge should be enabled on both modifiers. In 3D view, tab into Object mode and apply the modifiers. Tab into Edit mode, press A once or twice to select all vertices. Press W to bring up the Specials menu and select Remove Doubles. If all is well, the info bar should show 0 doubles removed. We need to slightly rotate the leaves to make room for the stem. We'll be rotating around the cursor, so set the pivot point to 3D cursor. Select the outer 3 vertices of the first leaf. Press R and enter 5 and return. Select the outer 3 vertices of the leaf on the right. Press R and enter -5. Select the outer 3 vertices of the leaf on the lower left. Press R and enter 10. For the lower right leaf, we rotate by -10. To create the stem, we need a better view of the central region, so enlarge the view with Ctrl up arrow and zoom in. Press Ctrl tab and select the Edge option. Now click the long lower right edge of the leaf on lower left and its counterpart on the right. Press W and select Subdivide. Ctrl tab back to Vertex mode, select the first new vertex we created and press Shift V to slide it and move upward, close to the central vertex, but it doesn't need to be exact right now. Repeat for the other new vertex. Zoom in closer, then select each new vertex in turn and pressing Shift V, slide them up until there are 2 notches under the vertex above them. Click that middle vertex, press X and choose Dissolve Vertices to remove it but keep the edge. Control Tab into Edge Selection mode. Select the edge, press Ctrl Comma to set pivot point to median and press S to scale, enter 1.5. Move the edge up 1 notch. Now we are ready to extrude the edge into the stem. Press E followed by Y and drag the extrusion down on the Y-axis to the first unit line of the grid. Delete the edge we extruded from, select it, press X, choose Edges. Select the extruded edge at the bottom and we can get rid of the widget as we're not using it. Press S to scale, then enter 5. Tab into Object Mode and press Alt-C to bring up the Convert menu and convert the object to curve. Now is a good time to save the file if you haven't done so already. Switch to Edit Mode and for a better view press N to bring up properties and turn off display of normals in the curve. Click the Set Spline Type button in Tool Shelf and choose the Bezier option. Now select the middle points of the leaves by clicking the first and shift-clicking the other 3. Press V to set the handle type and choose Aligned. Set the pivot point to individual origins. Press S to scale the vertices and enter 0.3. Now select all the outer corner points of the leaves. Press V again and choose Aligned. Shape the curves by moving the longer handles first. The thing to guard against here is areas of flatness to the curve around these vertices. To fine-tune the shapes, move the shorter handles. Select the 2 lower vertices of the stem and move them slightly to the left on the x-axis and slightly down on the y-axis. Adjust the handles to curve the stem nicely. Tab into Object Mode. Control down arrow to reduce the view. We need to adjust some curve settings in the curve panel. We set resolution to 8 to prepare it for subdivision later, and we change it to 2D to obtain a fill. Now rotate the view for a change of perspective and press Alt-C to convert the object to mesh. Tab to Edit Mode, Control Tab to Face Select Mode, press A to select all, press X and select Dissolve Faces. This converts the object to a single face. We'll be adding edges in critical areas as needed. Numpad 7 for top view and zoom in on the central region. We need to keep the central area neatly controlled for subdivision, so Control Tab to Vertex Mode and check the central area for stray-looking vertices and dissolve them if any are found. None are here. Press K for the knife tool and connect the central vertices as shown. As you hover the knife tool over the area, it will snap to the vertices. Press Enter for the final cut, completing the polygon. To tighten the stem, we create edges at top, middle and bottom of it using the knife tool. and with Ctrl R we also add an edge close to the end of the stem. Set pivot point to individual origins if it isn't set already. Ctrl Tab to face mode and select the face of each leaf. Press I to inset the faces and enter 0.03. Switch to Edge Select mode. Select the central edges of the inset polygons. Press S to scale and enter 0.5. Next, we add loops close to this central region to tighten things up for subdivision. Press Ctrl R to add loops. Now you see why we needed to remove the straight points earlier, if there had been any. Now let's turn this plane into a full body. Ctrl Tab to face selection mode. Press A once or twice to select all and E to extrude and enter 0.25. We need to sharpen the top and bottom outside edges by adding 2 loops there. Tab into object mode. Press Ctrl and the number 2 on the keyboard to add a level 2 subdivision modifier. Click the Smooth button in Toolbar. In its basic shape, the object is done. We can develop it a little more, and we're going to do that at the end. For now, one final touch. Rotate the object by minus 30 degrees on Z-axis for a nicer perspective. Now, to create a background for the Clover to rest on, add a plane object. Press S to scale and enter 6. Name the object background in the outliner. Now for the materials. Switch to the Cycles render engine. Select the Clover and in the Materials panel, click on New and rename the new material Green Wood. With the mouse pointer in 3D view, press Shift F3 for the node editor window. Now move the diffuse shader to make room and with Shift A add a mix shader. Hover the shader over the connection until it turns orange and drop it there. Now add a glossy shader and connect it to the mix. Set glossy roughness to 0.3 and mix factor to 0.02 for a slight effect. Now we're going to add a wood texture, mixing it with the green. We need a texture coordinate node, an image texture node, mapping node, and the Mix RGB node. Now we connect the new nodes to the diffuse shader and set the mix color. Hex value 009000. The factor is set to 0.8 and green mixes over the texture. If you don't have a suitable texture, the one used here is available from the link provided in the description of this tutorial. We duplicate the color mix node with Shift D and drag it down to connect between the texture and the displacement inlet of the material output. We need this to weaken the effect as the object is quite polished. We set the mix here at 0.1 and set the base color to hex 808080. In the mapping node, set the scale values to 0.2. In Outliner, select the background object, and in the Materials panel, assign the green wood material. Press the plus icon to duplicate it into a new material and rename it Dark Wood. Now in Mapping node, set Z rotation to -30. Set scale values to 1. In the Color Mix node, set the second color to multiply over the texture, factor of 0.8, and we change the green to a dull brown, hex value 765040. And we change to another wood texture, which is also available from the link in the description of this video. Set glossy roughness to 0.2. Now click the world icon so we can set up the world material. Click Use Nodes, which creates the basic setup. Add a sky texture and connect it to the background. Set turbidity to 4.5 and rotate the ball slightly upward, like so. Set background strength to 2.5. We need to set up a sunlight. Shift F5 back to 3D view, numpad 7 for top view. Select the light and move it to top left. In the light panel, click the Sun option, enable nodes, and set strength to 10 and size to 1. Multiple importance on. Rotate the light in 3D view to point to the Clover object. Before rendering, we have to set up the camera. Stay in top view and from view menu select Align active camera to view. Press N for properties and enable lock camera to view so that we can manipulate the view through the camera viewport. And that's it, we are ready to render. In the render panel, I'm going to use the HD 720 preset for the dimensions. Output will remain PNG. Render samples are increased to 100. Clamp values at 4 and 3. Bounce values are set to 4 mostly, except for minimum values of 1. Refractive caustics off. In performance settings, progressive refine is on, so the render can be stopped before reaching maximum samples. In post-process, compositor and sequencer are turned off as we don't use them. Now press F12 to render. And there it is, our 4-leaf clover as a wooden ornament. Before wrapping up, let's create a more developed variation. We will shape the leaves into shallow containers. Shift F5 back to 3D view. Numpad 0 to move out of camera view. With the clover selected, press Shift D to duplicate the object, press X to move the duplicate on the X-axis and enter 2.5. Select the original and press H to hide it. Select the copy and tab into Edit mode. Set pivot point to individual origins if it isn't set already. Control tab to face mode. Select the main top faces of the leaves. Press S to scale them and enter 0.7. Set the pivot point to 3D cursor. Press Shift S for snap menu and select Cursor to selected. Then S to scale, Shift Z to lock the Z axis and enter 0.9 to move the faces closer to their center. Press G followed by Z to move the faces down, enter -0.2. We're now going to sharpen corners for subdivision by adding edge loops. Press Ctrl for individual origins. Then press I to insert the faces. Enter 0.01. Pressing Ctrl R, place a loop very closely down by the lowered faces as shown. Then place one loop each near the top edges of the leaves, but not so closely as those edges don't need to be so sharp. To soften the central ridges, select the edges as shown. Press Ctrl for individual origins, press S to scale, enter 0.5. Tab into Object Mode. In the outliner, unhide the original Clover by clicking its eye icon. In 3D view, press 0 on numpad and adjust the camera view to include both Clovers. Now press F12 to render. And here they are. We're all done. I hope this tutorial has been useful. Please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe for future updates.